Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Works meeting for November the 25th, 2019. First item on the agenda will be a Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, we'll call roll. Madam Clerk, would you call roll?
Sure. Matt Gentry is absent this evening. Jane Taylor is also absent. Bill Stoner,
Present.
Dick Robertson,
Present.
Alan Milburn.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda will be approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, is there any changes?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, minutes are, that's, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to department reports. First up will be Police Department.
Good evening. Since the last meeting, the Lebanon Police Department responded to 448 calls for service. A total of 19 people were arrested for the following crimes. 8 were arrested on warrants, 1 operating while intoxicated, 2 for possession of methamphetamine, 1 for possession of a narcotic, 1 for theft, 1 for domestic battery, 1 for auto theft, 1 for disorderly, 1 for resisting law enforcement with a vehicle, 1 for criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon, and 1 for invasion of privacy. In that same time, 2 handgun permits were given out to the state for final approval. On November 14th, the department completed its annual TASER training and recertification. I wanted to let everybody know that we are going to be still accepting pre-apps until December 1st for the position of officer. And then last week, Officer McCloskey was recognized at our department meeting. He was presented with a letter of commendation for his actions on November 16th. On that evening, officers were dispatched to a suspicious person. Upon their arrival, the suspect began to flee. Officer McCloskey gave chase, and during his attempt to apprehend the suspect pulled a firearm. Officer McCloskey physically disarmed the suspect and took him into custody. That's all I have.
Any questions from the board?
Now, I just got one comment. I remember what I asked you, and I think I asked you an email or text, and you responded back, so we're good.
We're good?
Do you remember what that was?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Next up will be the Fire Department. Chief Batts.
Good evening, everyone. Since the last Board of Works meeting, Lebanon Fire has made 143 emergency calls of service, logged 320 hours of training, performed 44 commercial inspections, installed 4 car seats, and participated in 1 public education event. Last week, LFD hosted 3 nights and 4 days of live fire training. Training focused on breaching, search and rescue, and fire isolation. Participating departments were Advanced Fire, Center Township Fire, and the Whitestown Fire Department. It was a great 4 days of training. We appreciate everyone being there, and we trained over 80 firefighters during that time. Our lateral transfer process will end this Wednesday, the 27th at 4 p.m. We'll begin our testing in mid-December. I'd like to take a minute and discuss the Salvation Army. I have the privilege of sitting on the advisory board, and it's that time of year where you will see the ringers out, the kettle campaign. I would like everyone to know that's watching or listening, all the funds raised during that time will stay right here in Boone County and assist those in need. We also do disaster services, so if someone would lose their home, lose their belongings during a fire or some type of emergency event, we can supply that to them. Also like to take a moment and discuss Christmas tree safety. We'll be putting on a Facebook Live program in early December discussing the dangers of not watering your Christmas tree. So we'll get the information out and get that posted up so everyone can see. That's all I have this evening.
Chief, are you finished with live fire? Are you going to continue with that?
We'll have no more live fire trainings the rest of the year, other than the Christmas tree evolutions that we'll do.
Question from the board?
I have none.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Next up is Parks Department. John Messenger.
Good evening. Construction on the restroom/maintenance area is progressing very well. They poured all the concrete. We got the block up. All the heating and the water has all been run. Looking really good down there now. We're doing some groundwork, putting some more lines in and getting ready to prepare for more concrete pouring and hopefully some asphalt yet this year. Also working on some drainage, and I think the framing crew should be in the 1st of December. So I think they get some Mennonites in there, pretty hard workers, and do a great job. They've been on the job a little bit, but they'll be there the 1st of December. Looking forward to getting that project really put to bed before winter really hits us. We got to get the asphalt down, which is going to be a challenge, I'm afraid. Christmas lights in the park are pretty well up. We have a few touch-ups to do. Parks Department went down and put up the Christmas tree in front of the courthouse. Looks gorgeous. That'll be lit up by Santa and a little child on the December 7th when the Christmas parade goes downtown. Looking forward to see that lit up. We have some touch-up down there on some of the corners and put some more lighting up downtown also. Lap swim is going on every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at Lebanon High School from 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. There again, right around the corner, Saturday, December 7th, we have Christmas in the cabin from 9:30 to 1. You can get your picture taken with Santa while enjoying crafts and goodies. Carriage rides are now fully booked, but we can probably squeeze in a few more if you want to pop out there and see if we could try and squeeze you in. Those got booked up pretty quick. Christmas on the Square is from 4 to 8 downtown. You can enjoy visiting all the wonderful shops and vendors, along with little snow play areas for the kids and crafts, live reindeer, and performances on the street and in the courthouse rotunda. And then our annual Christmas parade will be starting out at Memorial Park at 6 o'clock. And you can sit back and watch, filled with lights, a bunch of, I think we have like 10 or 15 more floats this year. So we're pretty excited about that. Sit back and wait till Santa. He'll be along on one of the floats, probably the last one. We'll let him off downtown, and where he will light the Christmas tree. So, and that should be around 8 o'clock, 6:30, 7, 8, right in there. I'd get downtown by 6 o'clock if you want to see that. But our parade still has some entries. Just stop at the park office or call and let us know you're going to get into the parade. And that's all I had.
Any questions from the board?
I have none.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next up is Engineering Department, Kevin Curley.
Good evening. Engineering report for November 25th. Starting off on the downtown projects. We've had a lot of things just sort of wrapping up in the last couple of weeks. If you look to Phase 6, which is the West Main Street area, in the last 2 weeks we've completed all the signage, the landscaping, the fencing, and the lighting, as well as drainage punch list repairs, which included adjusting some manhole castings to level some things out and some other areas that were holding water. So those things have all been taken care of. We moved back into the square area on State Road 39. Last week we completed the light pole foundations, as well as all the decorative pavers. All those bluestone pavers are complete now, and happy to report that the parking along the west side of 39 is now back open to traffic. I guess I'd be remiss at this point if I didn't mention, I know there's been some dispute out there, some debate out there, whether or not we narrowed the parking spaces or if we moved the drive aisles on 39 north and south. We did not. The center line is exactly where it was before. The lane widths are exactly as they were before, around 11.7 feet. The parking spaces are as wide as they were before. We did not even remove and replace the curb on that west side of the street. It is narrow, but it's always been narrow. I would just remind everyone to slow down as they're driving through our downtown. It is a heavily populated pedestrian area, and just always be on the lookout. But I just wanted to dispel any rumors that we did not narrow State Road 39 through the school.
I think it appeared it was narrow when they were working on it.
Yeah.
I think it appeared so, and
But
it
when
was.
they got done, yeah, I looked at it, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it appeared so, and then, for a while it being closed, when it reopened, I think a lot of people thought that something had drastically changed,
Right.
and it's the same as it's always been. So, so that said, moving on to other things that have been happening, a lot of our work is focused over on the Meridian Street and State Road 32 area, particularly the intersection. Things are changing there rapidly, but really, the signal poles are all completed. The decorative skirts and bases on the signal poles were installed last week. We've poured all of the curbs and all of the curb ramps at that intersection, as well as essentially all the walks immediately adjacent to those curbs. And we've also been pouring curb and sidewalk on Meridian Street. Particularly since we last met, we've poured what I refer to as the southwest quadrant. So the walks across the front of the old Montgomery Ward building, as well as the walks to the north along that parking lot north of the Montgomery Ward building were poured today, with the exception of some areas that had to be left out for light pole work that has to go on there. But we're slowly making our way up Meridian Street to complete the rest of those sidewalk removals and replacements. Essentially, we're probably a little less than 50% done with all of our sidewalk work there. We hope to finish that up in the next 2 weeks, but looking at the forecast for next week, it barely climbs above freezing, so we will just have to see what Mother Nature provides us over the next 2 weeks on how much we can get done. But I'm confident we'll still have enough warm weather before Christmas to get those things completed. We've also done some other punch list touch-up work around the square. You might see a couple of new sidewalk pieces going in on the north side of the square on Washington Street in front of St. Adrian's and Lacey Boggs. That area where we kind of held off doing work there because of the basement underneath the sidewalk. We decided to go ahead and put those sidewalk pieces in, as we're not going to be able to accommodate the repairs of that basement, or the mitigation of that basement, just because of that is just cost prohibitive for the project at this time. But we'll continue to work with the building owners and see what can be done there.
So what did we do there? Did we put block in there?
No, we're just pouring, we left the existing sidewalk in place, but it was narrower than it really should be. So we're pouring those adjacent sidewalks to it, so it's the full width.
Oh, okay.
We're also going to go back and get those, the fencing in around the landscape beds, and just really what we're trying to do is complete all the contract required work for White Construction, so that we can relieve them of their contract responsibilities before the end of the year. Again, doesn't mean we're done with trying to help mitigate that basement issue, but for right now, it's just really outside the scope and the funding capabilities of our downtown bonds, and it's not White's responsibility to do that. So we're just trying to button things up so we can close out their contract as they're nearing completion. Most of their contract work is really isolated at this point to the State Road 32 and Meridian intersection. So we're nearing completion of that, as I said. So work expected before we get back here. I expect that the intersection of State Road at 32 and Meridian, we will complete all of our pedestrian signals. A lot of this will actually probably be done this week. We will complete the remaining curbs, ramps, walks, temporary pavements. Pavers are going in on that southwest quadrant near the CVS. So all that work should be done this week, although tomorrow is a bit of a question mark in terms of how much rain we're going to get. But we've got a few warm days here, and we're able to get a lot of work done, so we're going to do our best we can before the holiday. Again, I want to thank the Heart of Lebanon. I know I say this every week, but they continually update the public on a daily basis. So remind everyone to continue to look to their Facebook page for updates. Jumping down to the south end of town, Indianapolis Avenue, we've had some major milestones in the last 2 weeks. We've completed the primary curb lines on the west side, or what we refer to as Phase 3, and we were down there doing asphalt work today, doing base and intermediate courses of asphalt. Those are all complete at this point. We are scheduled to do temporary striping tomorrow morning. We think we have enough warm, dry weather first thing in the morning. We can get that done before the rains come in. And then if all goes well, we are scheduled to open that back up to two-way traffic by noon on Wednesday. This will also mean that all the detours through town will be removed, as we will now have two-way traffic. Keep in mind, there will still be still a construction zone. There'll still be work going on or unfinished work behind the curbs. And most of that work, though, really is weather dependent at this point. So it's we'll just see what the weather offers us over the next few weeks. But I'm not anticipating finishing a whole lot of additional work behind the curbs. So most of the walks, the driveways, the driveway approaches, landscaping, lighting, the final asphalt surfacing, and the striping will happen next spring, probably April, as best I could guess at this point, depending on
At
what.
least it'll be open.
Right. But at least it'll be open for two-way traffic and open for the holiday. Again, continue to look for updates on the City of Lebanon Facebook page. Feel free to contact the engineering department. We can get you on our email distribution for that as well. Pavement resurfacing projects, we are essentially substantially complete. There's been some work going on over the weekend and over the next 2 days to touch up our alley approaches onto Southeast Street and South Meridian Street. We also have one open area on Grant Street, at the north end of Grant Street, near the middle school, and that is also scheduled to be paved in the next 2 days. Our community crossings program for next year, our 2020 street resurfacing program, we've got an addendum 1 in draft form that'll be issuing later tonight. And keep in mind, we are still scheduled to open bids at this meeting on December 9th. A few other minor project updates. Our sidewalk replacement program, we're moving forward with right-of-way acquisitions, and we'll have a consideration for you later in the meeting to award a contract for right-of-way acquisition services for those sidewalk areas on Lafayette Avenue, Witt Road, and also some Riley Road work, which is for sidewalks, but also for road widening as a commitment for the Riley Ridge neighborhood. Street Department unit price bids for materials. That package is out on the street. Addendum 1 was issued earlier today, and that is also scheduled for bid opening at this meeting on the 9th of December. Sunbrook, happy to report the first phase of Sunbrook. All the curbs and asphalt are complete, and there's still some outstanding utility pole relocation work along their entrance, their acceleration, deceleration tapers along Witt Road. But the main asphalt and curb lines for that subdivision are now in place. And later tonight, you will be considering our secondary plat and the maintenance and performance sureties for Phase 1 of the project. Riley Ridge, I made a statement last week that the minimum home price in the neighborhood was reported to us by the builder as $215,000. I just did want to correct that. That was not a minimum price. That was the average price, is north of $215,000 for 35 of the 85 homes that have been completed. Again, that is above the average price that they quoted to us through the initial approvals of somewhere in the 190 range. So good things are happening in Riley Ridge, but did want to clarify what I said at the last meeting. And last but certainly not least, all of our pavement asset management plans are now updated. It was finalized last week, and I want to thank Lana Fairfield and David Newell, but particularly Lana, for all the hard work on getting that updated and uploaded to the LTAP website. And this now gets us eligible in 2020 for additional community crossing funding. So that's all I have.
Any questions from the board?
Kevin, I got one question, and I'm sure I know the answer. Is there
with all the great work that we've done downtown with all the lighting and everything,
Yeah.
is there any, I know it's hard to change much of that intersection, but is there anything we could do with 32 and 39 to, and I know the intersection's a hard intersection, but boy, it'd sure look nice if the lights there and the poles matched everything we had downtown,
Yeah.
you know?
As luck would have it, I think I can offer some consolation there. NDOT is currently working on a project for State Road 39 through Lebanon. And it's Lebanon from I-65 all the way through town out to, I believe, 300 North. Most of that work is resurfacing, but for the 1.3, 1.4 miles through the heart of Lebanon, through our downtown, anywhere where there is old historic bricks under the street, they are going to be doing a full reconstruction. This is not scheduled to happen until 2025, so it's a little way out. But I had a meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, and they have committed to working with the city to upgrade lighting to our decorative standards that we used on the square, as well as updating the entire intersection of State Road 32 and 39, making sure that that functions better for the traffic that we have there, as well as doing the decorative signal upgrades. So I think we can do that, and the state's going to do that. We would participate in that, but unfortunately, it's about 5 years away before that project would happen.
Another thing I was looking at was the, you know, I know we have the lights around the square and they go down Main Street, and I know future down the road, somewhere they probably head down Main Street east and go out to 32 and tie into the avenue sometime, you know. But it seems like to me that first block coming into the square, if we could figure out, and there's like only a couple lights there on each street.
Yeah.
Even if we change just those two instead of making them meet, you know, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That if we could just change those two and put those into decorative lighting down those side streets, so when you're coming up to town, you're coming into it instead of, you see it right when you get to town.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
No, I completely understand that, and would love to make stuff like that happen. You know, and I think there could be the ability, I could work with our utilities department to see if the bases that are underneath those existing light poles, if that is something that would accept a new light pole, we could work on that. Currently working with them to, I've put in, through our contractors, have put in new light pole bases based on conversations we had at this meeting a few months ago on Meridian Street.
Yeah.
And Lebanon Utilities is going to work on ordering 2 new light poles that will match the downtown light poles to install there on that first block of Meridian south of Main. So there's no reason why we couldn't continue to do that elsewhere throughout the city. The only question or concern would be is the foundation underneath those lights.
Sure.
Is that sturdy enough to
Sure.
accept these new poles?
Sure,
Because
but
they
I,
are heavier, right.
Well, they are heavier. I think really there's just we've just changed the specifications with which we design light pole foundations. There's a lot more that goes into them than I think something that was more designed in the field at the time those were probably originally built.
Yeah.
Now we have a much more substantial light pole base typically.
I thought it was just using that existing location,
Yeah.
you know, would just make it a little more attractive because coming in, and we went that little extra block around the square.
Right. And certainly even if there is a need to replace the foundation of those lights, and we were to do that adjacent to or in the same, or even in the same location, I mean, that's not impossible for us as a city to accommodate. Of course, we'd have to follow public bid law and procurement of those things, but we
Right.
could make that happen, you know,
Right.
1 or 2 poles at a time if we had to.
Yeah.
So be
Okay.
happy to chase those things down if that's something we all
Well, maybe we
want to
pick
do
one
and
street
we have
off at a
funding
time or
for.
something, you know?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I think it's really just a matter of allocating and appropriating the funding amounts to do those things.
Right. That's all I have.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Next up is Planning Department, Ben.
Good evening, board members. Planning Department continues to remain active as we go into the winter season. We completed another 45 building inspections over the last couple of weeks and issued 19 additional permits. Of those permits, we did issue 4 additional new single-family homes, so we've had some regular activity all throughout the year on single-family permits. I think we're creeping up on 80 new single-family home permits this year, which is more than twice our best year in the last 20 years, essentially. So we're seeing a lot of demand for new homes in Lebanon. We hope that continues. In terms of code enforcement, Makeda wasn't here today, so I don't have specific numbers, but I know she remains busy on the typical things we typically see. I've seen a lot of good results from the activities from code enforcement, and we're going to be adding a new person next year. They'll be doing some additional code enforcement activities, so we're hoping we can really hit that head on as we go into the next year as well. On our comprehensive plan, we are nearing completion of that planning process. It has taken about 18 months to do so, so a little bit longer than we had anticipated, but we are nearing completion. Our consultant did provide an initial presentation to our Planning Commission for the last meeting, which would have been last Monday night, and the intention is going to be to come back to them in December to get a recommendation on the updated comprehensive plan. We will also be doing a quick presentation of the Common Council tonight just to introduce the new plan to them as well in anticipation of that plan being back to them in January for adoption at some point. So long time coming, but the plan is about done. And just as a reminder, this is it's a web-based comprehensive plan, so there is not any print material that we'll have. So we're not going to have that 150-page document that sits around. We will have a website that can be updated regularly and on the fly as things change. So we think it's going to be a real benefit to the city moving forward. I think I mentioned partially already, we will have 2 new positions available in the planning department starting after the first of the year. One is an existing position that was vacated earlier this year when we had somebody leave for a new opportunity, and that'd be the assistant planner position. That will probably be advertised likely before the end of the year. And then the other one, we do have a new building inspector position in 2020, so we'll be advertising for that one as well, hoping to get folks in those positions, hopefully before the end of the first quarter, depending on what's available. It may be towards summertime before the assistant planner position gets filled when folks start graduating from college. So those will be coming out here pretty soon, so look for that. That's all I have.
Any questions from the board?
I see they started on the Hampton Inn, correct?
Yes.
Are they going to, is there still plans for a hotel on this side of 32?
There is.
Right there in the Market District?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We have not seen any plans come in yet, but my understanding is they're closing on those properties, so they'll be coming in pretty soon.
Okay.
Ben?
Thank you.
Next up is Street Department, Stormwater, David Neville.
How's everybody doing? Good weather, we like it. Let's see, the street department, we still have our brush and chipper truck out. It's been very busy, like usual. This will be wrapping up though, probably after this week. We'll start narrowing it down, and it's gonna have to convert over to a snowplow truck so we don't get caught not ready, but we do. And that's the same way with the leaf machines. We'll probably drop down to 2 next week, and then after that we'll be done. So people don't have to panic because we still have a yard debris week in the spring, in case people that didn't get their leaves out, or they fall super late, we can still get them. We do it like a week or 2 in the spring, get them back out so they don't have to wait the whole year. We have had 86 calls since the last Board of Works meeting. 10 of those were for brush, 13 for trash or recycling. 40 of those were for leaves. Well, I'm sure you're not surprised on that. 13 walk-ins, 1 for a dead animal, 2 for water standing, 3 for slick spots that needed salt. Thank goodness we ain't needed those this week. And 1 from the state highway about some power out that we couldn't put no temp signs up on 39. So, and then 2 for some signs that were ran over by cars. That's all we have. We just like to wish Jane a speedy recovery after Bill told us what happened with her. So that's all we got.
Questions from the board? Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Next up, the Communication and Community Development Department, Joel LePage.
Good Monday, everyone. Communications reports for today. It starts with a thank you. If you drive down to the east side of the courthouse square, you'll see a 26-foot tall, newly assembled Christmas tree ahead of our Christmas parade, and Santa helping to light that Santa's tree this year. Big thanks to, first off, the City Council. This was paid for by Riverboat money, and so the appropriation of the City Council to have this for community development was much appreciated. Also, the assembly of that tree was done by our Parks Department. That started around 1:15 and wrapped up around 5 o'clock, and so made quick work of a big tall asp, big lift downtown. So if you get a chance, check it out. It will not be illuminated until December 7th at the end, the culmination of the Christmas parade. And so looking forward to having that really ring in the Christmas season for us all. You might want to take a look at Indianapolis Monthly. Speaking of Christmas, the second installment of our work with Indianapolis Monthly highlights the Christmas season around the city of Lebanon, and so that's both online and in physical form. Also, our tiger statues coming up on December 9th. That's a Monday, our next Board of Works meeting from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. We'll have an art and artist meet and greet with our statues, the 7 that will be in municipal buildings, police department, fire department, our parks, street department here in the municipal building as well. You can see the statues, you can meet the artists, you can partake of some refreshments, all free of charge, and you can get some swag, some Lebanon swag will be given out there as well. That's stuff we all get. We'll also be using that as an art call out because there are further art projects throughout our community that will be taking place in 2020, and so we're calling all artists, and so want folks to be able to take advantage of that. Partnerships with both NDOT, CSX, and also building owners in our community to be able to add some art and some color in our downtown area. Speaking of color, kind of a pretty colorful guest on our most recent Love in Lebanon podcast, it is local musician Tim Newman. Tim started off playing at a very young age, but started his solo career at the Fig Tree. You may remember downtown, that was a restaurant that Levi and Bethany Deaton had. Great restaurant there. They had live music, and Tim started performing there, and is now in 2 different bands and has an album that's coming out on December 14th. And so we talked to Tim about growing up in Lebanon and the support or not growing up in Lebanon, he grew up in Illinois, but the support that he's had here in Lebanon to be able to pursue his dream and be able to write some of his own music and get it down to Nashville and be able to see where this thing goes, see how far that rabbit hole goes. And so the album drops on December 14th, but the episode 19 of the Love in Lebanon podcast is up now. Also coming up on December 9th, we'll be able to check out Drew Powell's Lebanon Legends video, and that will include the We've Got Spirit video. If you saw that on Twitter, Drew lended his expertise. I see you nodding, Tanya. You saw that. It was so cool to be able to see him lend his expertise and his fun and just his fire to be able to help Lebanon win the Spirit Award this year, given out by WTHR TV and Dave Calabro. And so that'll be incorporated in the Lebanon Legend video of Drew Powell. And so also grew up a Lebanon kid, being able to be on shows like The Office, Malcolm in the Middle, Gotham. He was very big in that as well. And so catching up with him was a treat, a really great guy. And so that'll be coming your way on December 9th as well for our city council meeting.
Question from the board? Thank you, Joe. Next item is old business. Does the board have any old business to come before the board? And then we move on to new business. Kevin, it's Abner Longley splash pad change order.
Thank you, board members. Once again, this is the best kind of change order. This is a negative change order. So this is a credit to the contract of $3,800. It's for a bunch of miscellaneous things, so I won't bore you with all the details, but essentially it's for either work that was in the contract that we ended up not needing, or it's for credits associated with work that the Parks Department did, or credits associated with warranty repairs that or warranty issues that we've accepted without any kind of modification from the contractor. So again, this is change order number 5. This would be the final change order. This is a credit change order, so a negative change order of $3,800. And this will be reflected in the final pay applications that we will process here shortly once this is approved. happy to answer any further questions you might have.
I'd make a motion that we approve change order number 5 for a $3,800 credit.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carried. Change order is approved. Then we go to item B, Sunnybrook secondary plot.
Yes, this is, thank you once again, this is Sunbrook Phase 1 or Section 1. What we're asking for tonight is for you to accept the sureties that they have put forth for the public infrastructure. This amounts to performance bonds and maintenance bonds. Maintenance bonds for the work that has been completed, which would include sanitary sewers on site, storm sewers, subsurface drains, curb, stone, base intermediate, and intermediate asphalt, as well as water mains and water main services. And then it's performance sureties for things that they have not completed, such as the off-site sanitary sewer system, the surface asphalt, the HMA or asphalt paths, and common area sidewalks, subdivision monumentation, regulatory signage, and erosion control. So what we're asking for tonight is that you would accept these sureties, totaling $271,718.75 on the maintenance surety side of things, and $422,943.75 on the performance surety side of things, that you would accept those, and this will allow us to move forward with the administrative acceptance of their secondary plat, and allow that plat to be recorded and open up for lot sales and home construction.
Is this Section 1?
This is just for Section 1.
Okay.
I guess any approval motion that would be made, we would say it should be made contingent on legal review and approval of the sureties that are provided, as well as administrative approval from, on the secondary plat from our subdivision administrator, which is the head of our planning department, Mr. Bontrager.
Okay, well, I make a motion that we approve the plot dedication with approval, legal approval and administrative approval.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approved. Okay, we'll go to item C, was the Butler, Fairman, and Cipher Active Living Sidewalk Program Agreement. Kevin?
Yes, thank you once again. This is fairly straightforward. This is a contract agreement between the city and Butler, Fairman, and Seifert, who will be doing right-of-way acquisition services for the city for active living projects, sidewalk projects, as well as road widening projects on Riley Road, Lafayette Avenue, and Witt Road. These fees associated with this agreement will be paid for from current appropriations from our active living accounts. So there is no additional appropriation or fees associated with this. But the Board of Works, being the contracting authority for the City of Lebanon, we're asking for your approval to execute this contract.
All right, then I make a motion, entertain a motion for Butler, Fairman, Seifert Active Living Sidewalk Program Agreement.
What's the, do you have a total fee on this, or not to exceed number, or anything?
Yes, I do. One second here. I don't recall it off the top of my head. Got the contract here, though.
Oh, $47,340.
Yes, and keep in mind, that is that is a not to exceed. That is a worst case scenario.
Correct.
There are
Hourly rates
there
on the
are
back.
hourly rates and unit price rates associated
Okay.
with those totals as we go through the appraisal and buying phases of right of way.
Okay,
along those
this
areas.
is going to come out of
Active
where
living.
again? Cost of living again?
Active living.
Active living, I'm sorry.
It's one of the line item funds in the planning department. So.
Funding that we have left over for this year, or?
Exactly, yes. This is 2019 allocated budget that has not been spent to date.
Okay, I'm assuming, Tanya, that's available. Can't tell.
I would have to look.
Okay.
Along with that motion, then I would also add, this would be subject to legal review
Yes.
And funding available.
and funding available.
Although I believe we've already received and addressed all comments regarding our legal
Yeah, I
department.
noticed a couple of them, just, we
Couple
can
that-
clean it up.
Again, yeah, no problem with it being subject to legal review, but I will say legal has reviewed this and we're working with the consultant.
Do I have a motion?
Oh, I thought you just did.
Oh, that's right. All right.
We need a second.
Do we need a second?
I'll second.
All right. Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried is approved. Next item up, item D, is surplus items for the street department, 2004 and a 2006 snowplow. David?
We do have another item that was added to the agenda for a mountain bike park design services. I don't know if that's at the bottom or at the top of this list of
I didn't
things.
see it.
I got it. I printed it off.
You got it?
Yeah, you want this one?
Okay. Mountain bike park planning agreement, Kevin?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of background on this one. Because this might be like, where the heck did this mountain bike park idea come from? Well, as we've been looking at, resources and assets that the city have, and one of the things that came up in conversations a few months back, was what are we ever going to do with the old city dump? The city dump was located outside of the city limits, up near the Trophy Club golf course. It's a significant piece of property that is, the dump was closed years ago. Any of the dumping that was there was covered over with dirt, and it's been growing trees and I'm sure home to deer and squirrel and rabbits and all kinds of wildlife in that area. And so we started thinking about what we could ever possibly do with this area. It's about 3 miles outside the current city limits, as I said, near the Trophy Club. But we got to looking at the terrain of it. It seemed to be fitting for some sort of a trail use. And then we got to talking about bike parks and mountain bike trails. And particularly, we were in conversations with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association, knowing that they have tried for years to build some mountain bike trails on the northwest quadrant of Indianapolis and have not been successful. We reached out to them. We showed them the property, at least digitally. We have not been on site with them. And they said they would very much be interested in participating in a project in that area. We've also met with other groups. One of the groups that the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association recommended we talk to is a group called NICA. NICA is the National Interscholastic Cycling Association. They are a mountain bike cycling association that sponsors high school athletic events, high school mountain bike races. We have a chapter here in Indiana. There are, well, I couldn't tell you how many chapters there are across the country, but there are several across the country in various states. And one of the things that Hoosier Mountain Bike Association recommended is that we talk to NICA because they currently have a chapter in Indiana, but they do not have a course. So this would be something that could add another benefit to development of the property, which is to create a regional draw to the park, whereby NICA would host statewide and even Midwest area races at that facility. It's along 52, so it's got plenty of access and exposure and easy access for those kind of regional draw events, much more so than any of the existing mountain bike parks or trails around the Indianapolis area. So that is another interesting opportunity that we think that can help to recognize Lebanon, both locally and provide a local benefit to the youth and people of all ages, really. But we think this could be a neat opportunity for something else for the kids to do, as well as drawing in regional draws through a NICA-sanctioned event or a series of events that could be held in this location. Again, we've met with NICA, we've met with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association, we've also met with the Tippecanoe County Mountain Bike Association. We're not far from Tippecanoe County in that area, so they're very interested. So this started us talking to those groups about trail design and how do we build a mountain bike trail. If you're not familiar with mountain bike trails, they're relatively unoffensive to the landscape. They're generally smaller trails. They're generally smaller than walking trails. They generally work with the terrain and don't necessarily fight against it. So we started looking at, though, who are the right people that can design these types of trails. And NICA led us to this group called Hill Ride, which is the proposal that is before you tonight. Hill Ride is a California-based company. As you can imagine, there's not a lot of consulting organizations that specialize in mountain bike trail design, so we kind of have to go where they are. Hill Ride has worked extensively in the state of Indiana, working for the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association. Particularly, one of the largest mountain bike parks in the state is in Terre Haute, and they've been the exclusive designer on that project. They were also the people that assisted the Mountain Bike Association in Terre Haute in achieving grant funding and raising local donations. So they took that project from concept through fundraising all the way through construction, and they seem like they're a really good fit. They come highly recommended from the local Mountain Bike Association as well as NICA in having the skills and abilities to design not just a mountain bike trail, but one that meets the requirements of NICA to hold a sanctioned event there. So that's the proposal that we have in front of you this evening. This proposal is just came into us, so it still needs to be subject to legal review. This has been sent to the legal department, but has not yet seen any comments. What we're asking for tonight would be the authorization to proceed with at least the first 4 tasks associated with this contract for the initial site assessment, conceptual design plans, and final design plans. This would include public information sessions, public work sessions, so that we can understand what need and desire there are in the public, and then eventually get this to a conceptual level plan that then we could go after grant funding, we could go after fundraising, and hopefully ultimately be able to activate what is currently a vacant, underutilized piece of property into something that we think could be a regional draw to our economy and a good outlet for our young people. So with that, I'm asking for your approval to execute this agreement, subject to a notice to proceed to not go further than the first 4 tasks for conceptual design plans and site assessments. And we would also be funding this out of current 2019 budget appropriations from Active Living. So no additional appropriation is needed for us to execute this conceptual planning level contract.
Evan, do you have a copy of that proposal?
I do.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
This was sent out earlier today. We just received this proposal back to us on Friday. And so I apologize for the short notice on getting this out to you.
So right now, you just want approval for the mountain bike park planning agreement?
Exactly.
Okay, subject to legal review?
Subject to legal review, and I would ask you to authorize the mayor to execute any contracts. Again, we're not going to proceed past the first 4 phases, which are the conceptual planning phases for the project.
Well, having not seen this, but you're saying that the money is already available, but how much money are we talking about for this contract?
Yes, good question. Initial site assessment is $3,120. Concept design plan is $1,560. and the final design plan would be $2,600. So we're talking about a total
7,800 or something like that.
$7,800, I believe, was the rough price.
Kevin, what, first of all, got a couple questions. Do they have one of these, like racing, I'm assuming there are going to be some contests
Yes.
and that type of thing. They're like one of these over towards the Ladoga, west of Crawfordsville area. Is it the same thing, or is it something different? It seems like there was one
I'm not
way over in
aware.
Montgomery County I was reading about once, and where they went through all these trees and everything, and it was something different, I don't know. It was trail bike racing and biking.
Okay.
Okay,
I wasn't aware of that. Now, I do know there is no NICA sanctioned course in the state of Indiana, so this would be the first.
okay, I think it's an interesting idea. My question is, that's the Old City dump. We've tried to do the things there before, and IDM has told us we couldn't. I think we need to research a little further on how much and what we can do there. I would have a little bit of concerns of bikes running around out there and disturbing any of the cover over that old dump.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I'm not sure how much cover's there.
Right.
I know there's got to be a bunch of cover over and I know people do things on dumps somewhere, but there's got to be a lot of cover, so.
Yeah.
I would ask that you check into it first.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it, because I think it'd be a neat addition. I'd like to know what the city's responsibilities are going to be a little more.
Right.
Later on, but,
I think IDEM would have to give the city some sort of a letter,
some sort of guidance or something.
or something on that, because it is contaminated property.
Yeah, I have reached out to IDEM when we first started talking about this a couple months back, and they gave us, I don't have anything formal, I don't have anything in writing, but they did give me a verbal approval that things of this nature are acceptable, provided that you don't significantly disturb the overburden, and we wouldn't be talking about a major earthwork operation anyway, and the kind of earth disturbance that bikes riding over the area would not provide any kind of violation as to that protected overburden. I would also say is that, primarily the area where we would build a loop around this property would be around the perimeter of the property. The dump, as we understand it, was primarily isolated towards the center of the project, and so we would not be really in that area. We actually want to be in the more drastic terrain changes that are around the perimeter of the property is where we would actually construct the trail. Again, I'm not saying that we can't take some time and evaluate some of those things further, but we have had some preliminary conversations with our representatives at IDEM related to those issues.
Okay, my other question would be this, we're talking bicycles, not motorbikes.
Bicycles, yes, this is
Yeah,
the
because
non-motorized
motorbikes would be a
vehicles
real
only.
problem.
Right. The only thing that, part of, and really a lot of that bike trail work is really low impact construction. Just sort of shaping the trails, removing some of the vegetation. There's not a lot of massive earthwork associated with these types of projects. We would have to build a parking lot somewhere on the site, so we would have to work with IDEM to make sure that any parking that we build does not disturb that overburden. But that would be the only heavy construction that would be done in that area.
I would kind of like to make sure before we get too far into the weeds that we can do something with it. I don't know what IDM needs to do, but
Sure.
I think we need to make sure that there's enough out there that we got plenty of cover that we can do something. So we don't, I know how bikes are, and they'll jump and get to here to get to there, and
Yeah.
next thing you know, we've got a rutted out spot, and I don't want a rutted out spot that gets us down below the minimum cover we're supposed to have
Understood.
somewhere, you know what I mean? So, I think it's probably, we've always talked about trying to do something out there
What,
with that facility.
fill me in terms of what can, what are the options for that property? I mean, are they all recreational type of use, or what is it that we really can look at that could go there?
I couldn't give you an exhaustive list, but in conversations that I had with IDEM, they basically mentioned things like more passive recreation, things like walking and biking trails. There could be things associated with like habitat reconstruction and education programs. But beyond that, without significant effort, you're really isolated to working with the land as it sits to now, and as we've said here a couple times, not disturbing the overburden, the soil that was placed over those dump fill areas. Primarily when I talk with IDEM, they said, yes, we've seen several communities work with these properties to create active and passive recreation facilities such as bike and pedestrian trails. I also would point out that Hillride, the consultant that we're also talking to, has had experience with several projects built on similar types of sites.
What's the total acreage? How much?
100 acres? 100? Yeah, I thought it was 100 acres.
100 acres, so that's a lot of property.
It's a lot of property, and it's a pretty wooded and woolly piece of property right now. I don't think we've done any dumping out there for 10 or 12 years, so it's grown up quite a bit in that amount of time.
Is there any reason that we couldn't table this to the next meeting and let you do some more research on what we could do there and bring it back to us?
Yeah.
So we feel a little more comfortable and so forth.
I'd feel a lot more comfortable if you could get that verbal comment from IDEM into something that's writing from them before we have to take action or consider this.
Kevin, who would be taking care of the property? Parks Department?
Actually, other than the parking lot, which would really be ours to maintain, we've already had good conversations with the Hoosier Mountain Bike Association to maintain the trail. So in terms of grooming the trail, in terms of looking out for any of those rutted areas to make sure that they're properly filled and compacted and stabilized, they would be doing that. They would also be, removing any fallen tree branches, clearing any tree branches that might impede travel on the trail. They do this on trails in the Indianapolis area, as well as they maintain all the mountain bike trails in Brown County State Park. So they already have extensive experience maintaining these types of trails.
Who takes care of the property now?
Right now, we don't do much on it other than we bush hog the grass field every couple times a year as needed. Street Department does.
Street Department does that?
Yeah,
Well,
after
we don't
years.
touch it at all. We got a contract with a guy that mows it and bails it. So we're not allowed to do nothing out there.
So what do we want to table this?
I'd make a motion, we table this to the next meeting.
It seems to be pretty in-depth.
Ask Kevin to do a little more research and bring some more information back to us, or get it to us before the next meeting.
Yes.
And so forth, and
I think that'd be.
I think it'd even be nice, I don't know, maybe you can find a video demonstration of what it is that you can kind of share.
Well, I think the key thing still is get something from writing that's a little more firm than
Exactly.
just a verbal comment from somebody at IDEM.
Okay.
These
Exactly.
IDEM things are
We need that.
murder.
Exactly.
Absolutely. We'll do some more diligence for you
Okay.
and have this back before you at your December 9th meeting, so probably best to just motion to table this issue.
I'd second his motion.
Thanks,
I'd ask
Kevin.
for a motion.
He's already made
I made a motion.
I'll second it.
Second, okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. It's tabled.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll go to the last item, David. It's the surplus items.
Hello again. We're just wanting to surplus 2 trucks to make room for 2 trucks that are coming in. One of them we already got. We're just waiting on another one.
Right.
But both trucks are down right now, so we figured we might as well do them both together.
Okay, all paperwork and everything's all filled
You'll need them
out.
tomorrow, snow tomorrow.
Yeah.
Even if we needed those 2, we couldn't use them, so.
I'd make a motion that we surplus a 2004 and a 2006 snow plow for the street department.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carried. Vehicles are surplus.
Thank you.
All right, next item is claims. Has everyone had a chance to review the claims? If so, I would entertain a motion to approve the claims.
I'll make a motion, we approve claims.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Motion carried. Claims are approved. Then I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same side. Okay, we are adjourned. Next meeting is scheduled for December the 9th at 5:30. And the city council meeting will scheduled to convene at 7:15.
Thank you.
Thank you.